The father was really, really furious, right? And he called the MD of the school, he called the chairman, chairman called me, and the whole thing went on for 6-7 hours, right? That's when we suddenly woke up and we realized, hey, these are people's kids. It's not just an SMS, right? It's someone coming to pick up the child. Let's create a process around it. So those processes are something that we are still learning, right? When I now look back and if you were to ask me what are your entry barriers, so the first entry barrier that I would say is our process, because now the process has really, really matured, right? Technology is something possibly another bunch of smart guys would come in and do in 3 to 6 months, but I think the process is something which has taken this 3 years that we have spent. I think the process maturity has happened, right? The second is possibly scale. So I think three things, team, growth capital to a small extent, the process, and introducing the product to the market. Sorry.
Did you come across any notorious kid tampering with your intentionally or unintentionally?
Yeah, and funny that you ask. So initially we used to have this machine where kids would come and tap their card. It had a lot of switches for different configurations, right? And it had a LAN port and a USB port, which are all exposed. So kids would come and they'll have chewing gum, and they'll and then we'll have a whole glob of chewing gum to clean out, right? So the product design now has changed, wherein there are very clean, smooth edges. There are no protruding lights, buttons. There are in fact no buttons on most of our hardware. It's all custom designed. There are no buttons, so it can't hurt a kid, and at the same time kids can't do something to it. Yeah, so a lot of kids did that. Even drivers did it. The school bus drivers, right? They'll cut our wires and do all those things.
Sometimes the processes are basically in place, but there are certain external contingencies. For example, just the IT going completely. For example, the terrorist center in Mumbai, and the lines were completely
right.
off. The SMS would have not reached the parents, and they must be. How did you all deal with that scenario?
Yeah. So two things, right? Like I'll give you a much more recent example, right? So the government of India issued an order banning SMS messages.
Yes.
That order was received by me at 10:30 when I was having dinner, right? My food just stopped here, because next morning, I was horrified, right? That hundreds of thousands and thousands of parents will miss their school bus next morning, right? We couldn't make so many calls, impossible, right? We did not even have a chance to send that one last SMS saying, dear parent, please do not wait for this, right? We did two things, right? One is we immediately started calling all the schools. We have a list of staff members. So, for every 100 kids, possibly there are 2 staff members, right? So it's much easier to call the staff members than trying to call all the parents. 50-50, right? So that is something that we did, right? The second thing was where we had email addresses. Now, there are a lot of emailing softwares available. Lot of our parents, I would think about 70% of our subscribing population of parents have a BlackBerry or some kind of a smartphone and have internet access all the time, right? And when it says on behalf of school, they kind of open it. So that was the second thing that we did, right? So yes, there are times when processes would fall flat. The only thing to do is take it very seriously, right? End of the day, you really need to know what is the key thing that you're delivering. It's not an SMS, it's that they're going to miss the bus, right? And immediately take action, and thankfully everyone understood that it was a genuine problem where our hands are completely tied and we couldn't do anything, right? Because at 11 in the night I couldn't even go and explain it to anyone in the government of India saying hey, we are not sending spam messages, right? These are really important. So yeah.
How do you create trust value at the start of as a company when you started off?
Yeah.
How did you create a trust value in the people who supported your ventures?
You mean the team members or you mean external?
The customers, basically, not
business ethics is a whole other discussion. But yeah, see, it's like this, right? One thing to keep in mind is like today, right? If I have to go out and hire a bunch of people for my ventures, a lot of people that I find today are through ex-employees, right? So I would kind of spread the word to them, and they would spread the word to their friends, and we get a lot of resumes through them, right? And these are people who have worked with us before at some point in time, either at Consumer Vision or before that or now, and they understand our work style, they understand what we are doing. If you're not ethical, right, in those transactions, right? I possibly know Professor Radha for 7 years, 7 years now, right? And I came to Mumbai as a student, right? When I now look back, the primary value which I add to my business is the set of contacts, right? And those have sustained for so long, right? Businesses have changed. Third business venture, right? But then those relationships have really sustained. So I think it's important to do two things, right? One is the American way, right? Be very upfront, blunt, right? You need not, a lot of people, a lot of startups, right? They go wrong in trying to decide the equity, right? So two friends are sitting, we both co-founded the venture, so chal 50-50 karte hain, right? It doesn't work because after some time, you would realize that, the other person, possibly has other priorities in life. He has a girlfriend, he really needs to get married, parents are pressuring him, he needs to take up a job, and you find that you are the one who's slogging most of the time, but you own 50%, he also owns 50%, right? So there are many smart ways of handling things, right? Not unethical, smart. So, you can put in a clause saying, based on the number of hours that we put in, based on how much we contribute to the top line of the company, for example, right? That is the amount of equity you get back. So at the start, let's both have 10%. There's 80% in a common pool, and then depending on how long we survive with the company, the equity vests to us, right? So the idea is that two things, right? Be very, very blunt, be very clear in all your dealings with customers, dealings with friends, dealings with employees, you're negotiating salary. Don't keep it vague, saying, "Yeah, मैं तुझको बहुत पैसे दूँगा," right? If this happens, right? Put everything on paper, have a structured, salary sheet on paper. Really, really helps, right? Similarly, you're dealing with a customer where, you are a bit itty-bitty about the delivery, you don't know whether delivery will happen or not, whether you'll be really able to ship, right? Just put it on paper, right? We develop a lot of new products where there is a 50-50 chance of it not being able to ship by a certain day. So we put in a small penalty clause. Customer is very happy, we are very happy because we know, hey, we need to meet this date. The worst which is going to happen is not that we are going to lose a customer, is that we are going to have a 5% penalty. We don't want to have that 5% penalty, so the customer knows that we are going to work hard. So both parties are happy. There is no scope for any conflict to arise. So very important. First thing, be very, very clear. Second, drive it through process, right? Get a friend who's a lawyer or a good chartered accountant, help you with the employment contract. Very important. Most small startups, technology startups, are heavily IP driven. Whether you realize you have IP or not, you're still IP driven, right? And at the end of the day, if I'm your employee and you didn't pay me, and in lieu of my salary, I take away all your software code which you've built in 3 years, right? Not funny at all, right? So important that you take these precautions. If you talk straight, put everything on paper properly, which is win-win for both parties, I think the relationships will get maintained. Answers your question? Yeah, Professor.
For the school product, who were your competitors, or was there no competition? Substitute?
Okay, so when we came in, there wasn't a 1:1 competitor. There still isn't, right? Where exactly what we do, another competitor is doing. So there is no apple-to-apple comparison. See, what happens is, and I still believe this, right? That our product is still a vitamin. It's not a painkiller, right? So if there's a poor guy who's really in a lot of pain, so even if he's poor, he'll still find money to buy a painkiller, right? But if he's a rich guy and he has a very nice balanced diet, he may still say, hey, I really don't need your vitamin. So the point is that what we are selling, right, is something that improves the service quality from the school to the parent, but does not fundamentally impact the primary service which is expected of the school, which is education. So we are not a smart board company, we are not an education content company where schools could go and really boast about saying, hey, this is a X powered school, right? We are providing an add-on to the basic function provided by the school. The real challenges very early days were these, right? We were, like I said, we were trying to solve a subset of the problem. We were not trying to solve. So today it's a very comprehensive product. So, your bus is coming, your child has boarded the bus, your child is in the school. Then we have a school management tool, right? So earlier we would go to a school would say, hey, but I'm going to get attendance from your system, but all my grades, everything is managed on a different system. So then I'm going to essentially take this, input this into that system, to calculate the grades or calculate the percentage attendance and so on, right? Which was a huge challenge because all of the early customers, we used to do a 1:1 interfacing with different systems. So if I had 10 customers, I was working with 10 different IT systems and trying to interface our product. Now what has happened is that there's a single comprehensive product wherein whatever the school wants, library, the same card which is used for attendance in the bus is also used in the library, is also used for micro payments, small payments within the school campus, store, fee, fine payments, etc. So I think the product has now matured. So initially there were these more than competition, there were these either substitute products or modules which were missing, where customer would come and say, hey, but I also needed to work in the library. Say, hey, but we don't do library, we only do tracking. So I think that is changing now, and we are understanding more in terms of what. So if you would have asked me 3.5 years back, will you ever develop library management software, I would have said no. There are so many people who are doing it much better, and they still are, right? But then it's like MS Word, right? You and I possibly use 40% or maybe 20% of the features that are there, right? Possibly the 900 plus features, and you and I possibly use 40 or 50. Right, so the idea was, why not create a product with the 50 features which will appeal to the 95 percentile market. So that is what we are trying to do today, and it's very funny story. Close friend of mine from IIT, he used to work in Tokyo. So next morning, so it just happened. Yeah.
What did you do finally? Did you do it for?
Yes. We did it. They became the first customer, and it was a very good experience. We learned a lot, and the first experience was a particularly hard experience because the school was in a very dense residential area. There are lots of houses around it, and about 20-30% of kids just stay bang opposite the school. So their parents didn't want to pay to get an alert saying your child is reschooled. Right, so I think it was good that it was in a different city where we did not have an office. It was in that kind of an area, so the demographic was very different. So I think all that could go wrong, went wrong, and I think it was a very good learning opportunity.
You said that this is your third venture,
Yeah.
KeepTrack. What was your exit strategy for the earlier two ventures?
So the first venture was sold, right? Yeah, the second venture we exited by selling the IP. Right, and now this is the third venture. So, and at none of the points was it like really planned that X is going to happen, right? It just the time came. It just seemed to be the right thing. Someone came, made an offer, and it just happened.
Okay, you haven't planned for it.
I haven't, right? But again, my thought is, see, there are two types of ventures, right? One is a lifestyle entrepreneurship venture, so a neighborhood bakery or a flower shop, and some startups fall in the same category, right? The other is a growth venture, wherein you look at the business, it's like your kid, right? You could always homeschool him. He never needs to go to school, never needs to cry. But then you send him to, play school and then college in a remote city anyways, right? Because you want the best for him. So I think it's the same with your venture, right? Wherein your interest is, the affection for your kid. Similarly, your interest in a business is, possibly the very early product vision. At the same time, your stake, right? So I think there does come a time for every venture wherein you have to take an impartial view and say, hey, I am possibly not the right person to run this business, right? Or possibly you are, right? But so I think you need to be very aware rather than anytime making a flat statement saying, hey, I'm never going to sell my venture. You want to buy KeepTrack? Yeah, let's talk. So I think you need to be open about that. Yeah.
One more question, what is your suggestion to management students who have ideas about technical products but they are not in position to implement those because they do not have technical knowledge?
Okay.
So how could they go ahead with that idea being not so familiar with, but they have idea, like KeepTrack you said, but this business plan have already been developed by one of group of students.
Wow.
So this is where they were trying to keep attendance in the schools rather than keeping track of kids.
Right.
So it's one and the same thing.
Sure.
Here requirement is more from college side, yours it's more from parent side.
Right.
So what are your suggestions? How could they go ahead with that?
Okay. So there are two comments here, right? The first is what I call as pizza entrepreneurship, right? So basically, how much money do you need to make a simple web application? Just enough to buy pizza for few of your friends for a week, right? So It's like, as an entrepreneur, of course, like campuses like IIT have a distinct advantage that you may be from mechanical engineering, you may not know any computer science, but there would be another friend from mechanical engineering or from computer science who might be really very keen to do it, and you just need to